Richard Hale, a $2.8 billion tech mogul, hadn't heard from his daughter Sophia in 7 days after sending her to the Philippines as a wake-up call. He flew to Bohol expecting the worst. Instead, he found her teaching children to read minutes after a missing person report had gone out under her name. This is what happened next. "You're not in trouble," Richard said quickly, reading the fear on her face. Sophia shook her head, and the fear didn't ease, it sharpened. "That's not it," she said. "If you take me home now, before this is finished, it proves I can't actually finish anything. Not this, not anything. Every unfinished thing I've ever started, you finished for me, or paid someone else too. If you pull me out now, this becomes one more thing I quit, and I will never know if I could have actually done it." She glanced at the 11 children, still watching from the floor. "I'm not scared of you being angry, Dad. I'm scared of you being right about me." The missing person report, it turned out, was Estrella's doing, not Sophia's. 2 missed radio check-ins, then word that Sophia had gone further down the coast with a group of volunteers without telling anyone exactly where. Estrella had panicked and called the barangay captain herself. "She loves you like her own," Sophia said. "She was scared, not wrong to be." Richard asked the only question that mattered. "Why didn't you just call me? Tell me you were safe." Sophia was quiet for a long moment. "Because every time I've ever needed something fixed, I used your name," she said. "I wanted to know if I could do one thing, just one, as only myself, not as your daughter." It was Estrella's mother, Lola Faye, 81 years old, who had said the thing no therapist in Manhattan ever had. Sophia repeated it to her father now, voice steady. "She told me, Anik, the rich fear being loved for nothing, the poor fear being loved for nothing too. The only difference is the poor find out sooner which love was real." Richard said nothing. He had never once, in 22 years, wondered whether his daughter believed she was lovable without the money attached to her name. Sophia kept going, because she had clearly rehearsed this moment for a week without knowing when it would come. "Lola Faye asked me once why I never mentioned my mother. I told her I don't really remember her voice anymore, just fragments. She said that was all right, that memory fades, but choices don't. She said, you cannot choose to remember her better, but you can choose to become someone she would recognise. I think that's the first time since Mom died that anyone gave me something to actually do with my grief instead of something to buy." Then came the number that changed everything. Sophia's mother had left her a private trust, separate from Richard's company entirely, that had quietly matured on her 21st birthday. $41 million, controlled by Sophia alone, that Richard had never known existed because he had never once asked what her mother had left behind. She had used the first $600,000 of it, without telling anyone, to build the concrete building they were standing in. Sophia pulled a folded piece of paper from her bag, a cashier's receipt. She had wired a full year's salary, quietly, to a woman she had never properly apologised to. "The waitress from the gala," she said. "Marites. I found her through the catering company. I didn't put my name on it. I didn't want credit. I wanted it to matter more than an apology would." Richard realised, standing in a room that smelt like paint and chalk dust, that his daughter had already done the hardest work without him. He asked for Marity's number that same afternoon. When he called, he didn't offer money. He said only, "My daughter told me what she said to you. I should have known who she was becoming years before this. I'm sorry it took her flying across the world for either of us to fix it." Marites was quiet for a moment, then said simply, "Thank you for calling yourself, sir. Most men send someone else to say sorry for them." Richard did not offer to take over. He did not call his lawyers, did not suggest a board, did not put the Hale name on a single wall. Instead, he asked Sophia one question. "What does the centre actually need next?" Sophia blinked, unprepared for a father who asked rather than fixed. "Books," she said finally, "and a second building for the older kids." Richard nodded once. "Then that's what gets built, under your name, not mine." He stayed in Bohol for 4 more days, sleeping on a cot in the back room, learning to sand rough edges off a bookshelf his daughter's volunteers had built badly on purpose so no child would think it too nice to touch. On the 3rd day, a 7-year-old named B, who had never spoken more than a few words to any adult visitor, handed him a broken crayon and said only, "Fix." Richard, a man who had once fired a supplier for missing a shipping deadline by 4 hours, spent 20 minutes whittling the crayon back into a point with a pocket knife, hands shaking slightly, more nervous than he had been in any boardroom in 15 years. On the last morning, Lola Faye took his hand the way she had taken Sophia's weeks earlier. Sophia translated, she says, "You flew here on a rumour and stayed for the truth. That's rare in a rich man. Don't waste it." Richard knelt so he could look the old woman in the eye. "Tell her I won't," he said. Lola Faye patted his cheek once, like he was one of her own grandchildren, and added something that made Sophia laugh for the first time since he'd arrived. She says, "You also need a haircut. The suit is enough of a costume already." The next morning, Richard flew home carrying 3 things that had nothing to do with $2.8 billion. A child's drawing of a stick figure labelled Miss Sophia's Papa. The marker that had fallen from his daughter's hand the moment she saw him, which she pressed into his palm and told him to keep. And the folded newspaper clipping, the one that had once said missing, which he kept in his coat pocket for the entire flight home. 6 months later, Richard flew back to Bohol for a groundbreaking he hadn't been told about until the invitation arrived. The clipping was there too, framed now, hanging on the wall of the finished second building, right next to a small brass plate that read only, "Built by someone who finally heard her own voice." The class had grown from 11 children to 43. The whole building had cost less than the catering budget for the gala where this entire story had started. Sophia never went back to being the woman who threw a wine glass at a caterer. She stayed in Bohol most of the year, flying home only for board meetings she now actually attended, sitting quietly in the back until she had something worth saying. Richard never mentioned the trust fund again, except once, at that groundbreaking, when he raised a glass and said the only toast he'd ever meant completely. To the $600,000 I didn't know about, and the daughter I didn't know either. I'm glad I finally do. This story isn't about a father who saved his daughter. It's about a daughter who saved herself, quietly, in a place her father never thought to look until the truth found him anyway. If this story moved you, drop Pinoy in the comments and subscribe for more stories about the moments that change everything.